everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 crowdfunded surprises. And when I say surprise, obviously these are games that I hoped would be good or I wouldn't have put my money behind them. But for one reason or another, either were even better than I expected or did something that I wasn't expecting. So this is just a kind of a broad category of things that games that surprised me that I crowdfunded. Number 5 is coming in with In the Hall of the Mountain King. So this is a game that I backed primarily because of the aesthetic. I thought that it looked really cool, and I liked the theme of digging into this underground tunnels through a mountain. But the biggest surprise to me about this game is this one kind of central core mechanism that obviously they described it in the actual project itself, but playing it was so cool. And this is a kind of a cascading resource management. I don't even know what you'd call it, but basically when you are playing out these trolls, you're playing trolls out in front of you that all are going to produce some type of a resource. And when you trigger one, it's going to trigger whatever that troll produces, and then everything below them in a cascading fashion. And so it's really kind of a cool puzzle to set up your kind of action tableau, so to speak, in front of you. And that was something that was really what surprised me about this game, is that it's got some, it's got other things going on. It's got polyominoes, kind of, that are going to be your tunnels that are going through a mountain. And it's got some player powers and magic and stuff like that. But to me, the hook of this game, the thing that keeps me coming back to it, is that kind of resource management, resource production mechanism. It's really, really cool. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen it in other games more. So that alone got it onto this list at number 5, In the Hall of the Mountain King. All right, and number 4 is one of the first projects that I ever backed. And this is one that actually I think is getting re-released, but it's called SOS Titanic. And this is essentially solitaire with player powers. The old classic Patience, I think it's based off of the Patience variation of solitaire by Bruno Cattal and Ludovic Mablanc. And this was a game that I bought, basically, or I backed, because I wanted to have a riff on solitaire. I like playing solitaire as an app on my phone, and I thought, well, this might be kind of cool. An interesting theme where you're trying to save passengers off of the Titanic before it sinks, and you have an actual spiral-bound book that represents the Titanic sinking, and as you flip over, more and more of the boat goes under the water. And so why this is a surprise is just that it's a game that I still continue to get out and play. I did not think this game would have the legs that it did. But I guess thinking about it, solitaire is a game that's been around forever. It's a very relaxing kind of an activity, and this just takes that and adds a little bit of a hook with some individual player powers. It's a game that I'm still so happy to have it in my collection. I almost didn't back it because this was back before I was backing a lot of games, and I was still not sure about crowdfunding as a platform. But I'm really, really glad that I did, because it's a game that's still in my collection. It's a game that I still get out and play. All right, number 3 is Coloma, and this was a game that I backed really because of theme and aesthetic. Now, I've said in the past that I am a bit of a shallow gamer, and so if I'm being honest, many times when I'm backing a game on a crowdfunding platform, the aesthetic is going to be the first thing that gets my attention. It's going to be the thing that kind of draws me in. And it also can be something that can burn you. You can have beautiful looking games that don't come off so well. But Coloma was a game that is done by the Micho, an artist that I love mostly through his work in the Raiders of the North Sea and the Architects of the West Kingdom, and in the Valeria games as well. And so I knew I liked that artwork, and I knew I wanted a Wild West themed game, and that's what Coloma offered. And it delivered. And this is a game that the reason why it's such a surprise is this is one that exceeded my expectations. I was hoping for a nice kind of a pleasant Euro game that I might get out once a year or so. But Coloma is a game that has a really cool simultaneous action selection mechanism in there. It's got some little kind of area control going on the board. It's got individual card player powers that you can. There's a lot going on, is what I'm trying to get at here. But it's a game that I have had a lot of success showing to new people. It can play up to 6 in a reasonable time frame. So Coloma is a game that really just exceeded my expectations. I got it going in because of the look and the theme, and the gameplay is what keeps me coming back. All right, number 2 is a big solo-only game. And that's really what caused me to put it on the surprises list, is that I felt like I knew I was taking a risk when I backed it. This is Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. And so this is based off of the Frank Miller version of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. And it is a solo, well, it really is essentially a solo-only game. There is a 2-player mode that you can put in there, but I'm really only talking about the core experience of the game, which is a solo game. And you can play it across a bit of a mini campaign, or you can play as individual games. But no matter how you play it, it's a game that does some really, really neat things. And I guess I'm just surprised that a game that is only really a core solo experience can have this big of a lavish of a production, can do this well on Kickstarter, and really come through with a good game as well. So Batman is, the coolest thing about it is the way that it handles kind of player agency. So what you do is you've got a hand of cards that's going to determine what you're going to do for that turn, that round, I should say. And so you get a group of cards, and you're choosing whether you're going to either keep those cards in hand or you're going to make them as an event. And so it gives you a lot of agency. And a lot of times in cooperative games, you're kind of stuck with random card flips. Like, oh, here's a bad thing that's going to happen. Oh, okay, no, I got to deal with this. In Batman, you're choosing what they are. Now, you still shuffle them. You don't know the order that they're going to happen, but you've got some agency in what you're going to be facing, and I really like that. And so this is a game that has surprised me in a number of levels, and it's one that I hope continues to surprise me. All right, here we go. My number 1 biggest surprise is Aqua Garden. This is a game that I knew really nothing about. I knew that it looked beautiful, and I knew that it had some really neat looking screen printed animal meeples, and that's really what hooked me in. But what I found out when I got the game is that there's a really cool Euro game here. And so Aqua Garden is a game where you are trying to have the best aquarium amongst the people at the table. And you do this by drafting off of a central board different sea life that you have to place into aquarium tanks around your central board. And each of these tanks can have some limitations. You have limitations on which animals you can place where. And so it's a very, very puzzly game. But the reason that it surprised me so much is just how much I have played and enjoyed this game. How many times I've taught it. How many people have been kind of impressed with it themselves. You see it on the table and you want to play because it has these beautiful little animal meeples, but there's a really solid game there. And so much so that I knew as soon as I was doing this list that this was going to be my number 1 surprise, because I was just hoping it was going to be a pleasant game, and it turned into much, much more. That is Aqua Garden. All right, well, that's going to do it for my surprises list. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from Dice Tower headquarters.